So today we're going to look at safety while stalking, and particularly rifle handling. So here we are on a piece of stalking ground, and the stalker has just arrived at the ground. He's taken his bag off the back seat of the car. The bag will contain the bolt, the moderator and his ammunition, and he'll be carrying these away from the rifle so that in the event that something goes wrong on his way to the ground, he can pick the bag up and the rifle isn't active. It means that if the rifle gets stolen, it's simply a piece of very expensive scrap metal. So we see him here taking out the fittings that he's going to fit to the rifle, the bolt, which is essential for firing the rifle, of course, the bipod that's going to go on the front in case he takes a prone shot, the moderator, which is an essential piece of PPE to protect his hearing, and finally the magazine, which will contain the rounds. So he's opened his safe. The gun safe that you see here is quite an expensive piece of equipment that's probably £1,500 worth, and it's probably beyond the means of the average stalker when they set out. But we really do need to ensure that our rifle is safe and secure from casual theft, from the person that will come along, put a brick through the screen and grab anything that's in the car at the time. And that can actually be achieved with a fairly simple security cord like this. These are about 15 or so pounds. They simply fit in the trigger guard. This one has got a code on it. Some are locked, and before we fit it in, the trigger guard actually attaches to a suitable point in the vehicle, such as the one here. And it's an inexpensive way of easily preventing somebody from putting the window in and just grabbing the rifle. He unzips the bag, takes out the rifle, looks at it, and he looks up the bore to check that the bore is clear of any obstructions. He looks at the slings, makes sure that the sling and the sling swivels are secure, which they are. And now he can think about fitting the bolt, the moderator and the bipod if he's going to use it. You can see that whilst fitting the bolt, the rifle is pointed at the ground, a nice soft area. Even though there's no ammunition anywhere near it, if we make a practice of observing these safety measures, things will work better for us. We're less likely to make a mistake in the future. So he's checked that the bolt is fitted properly. He's going to screw the moderator on. We take the moderator off our rifles every time we shoot them because the moderator contains gases from the burning of the propellant powder in the cartridges. Those gases produce corrosive compounds which will corrode the barrel. So we always take the moderator off the rifle when we've finished with it at the end of the day, and we leave it off the rifle until we return to our stalking ground at some later date. In the meantime, of course, we will have suitably cleaned and protected the rifle from rust and corrosion. So he puts the rifle back down somewhere safe, and will then select his ammunition and load the magazine. The stalker will always carry a fully loaded magazine and some spare ammunition. So here he's got 3 rounds in the magazine, and he's carrying a further 7 rounds in a clip, so that if he needs it while he's out stalking, he's got it with him. He hasn't left it behind in the vehicle. So the stalker's prepared all his equipment. He now picks the rifle up from where he put it down. He checks it again, puts it on his shoulder, and he then locks his vehicle and his other equipment up, because he's going to leave this vehicle for some time. And it's always possible that some nefarious person will come by and try and take the vehicle or some other equipment that's with it. So he's walking away from the vehicle, and as he does so, he's going to find a nice safe place which he will have planned in order to load the rifle to go woodland stalking. So he needs now to load the rifle. So he takes the rifle off his shoulder, he checks it, he selects his magazine from his pocket, and he loads the magazine into the rifle. He then watches a round go into the chamber. He puts the bolt fully down, making sure that the rifle is ready to fire, and he then puts the safety catch on. Right, a common mistake which we sometimes see, particularly where someone's got a rifle with a fixed magazine as opposed to a detachable magazine, is that they will hold the rifle at this sort of angle in order to load the magazine. It makes it convenient because of course the rounds tend to fall back against the breech face as opposed to down the barrel. But if someone has loaded the magazine and they then close the bolt and something goes wrong with the rifle, or they inadvertently squeeze the trigger, the round will go off, and with the rifle inclined at 30 to 35 degrees as it is here, the round will travel possibly 3 miles and still kill someone. Much better. The safe way to do it is to have the muzzle pointing at a piece of soft earth like this whenever we're operating the bolt, loading or unloading the rifle. So here we see the stalker walking through woodland, and we can see that the rifle sticks up in the air. It catches on branches and anything else that's there, makes a lot of noise, and it's actually more difficult to carry than the method we'll see in a moment. So here we can see marks on the moderator caused by just walking once through those birch trees. We can see that in time this would cause damage to the finish on the moderator. So here we see the stalker carrying a rifle with the muzzle down towards the ground. Carrying it like this, the stalker can see the muzzle, he's muzzle aware at all times. And as he goes through woodland, he can crouch, he can pick the muzzle up in the direction he's travelling. It's perfectly safe, and the muzzle doesn't contact trees and branches, making noise. And then when he comes to drop the rifle off his shoulder, if he wants to take a shot or is contemplating taking a shot, he doesn't change the silhouette in the same way that he does carrying the rifle on the back of his shoulder. So we could see there that the stalker had the rifle under much greater control. He was muzzle aware at all times. At all times the muzzle was pointing at the ground, so that if something went wrong, the round would go off into the ground, and the muzzle wasn't pointing around in the air. It has further advantages as well, in that going through brush such as that, your arm actually protects the action of the rifle. Right, so what we've looked at here is a stalker arriving at his stalking ground. He's assembled his rifle, he's found a suitable place to load it, he's loaded his rifle, and he's set off on his stalk. And we've seen the way in which he carries the rifle whilst out stalking. So the stalker's decided that he's going to sit up a high seat for a while, and he has a high seat in a prominent position. He's approaching with his rifle fully loaded and ready to go for woodland stalking in case there's a deer in the vicinity. He's checking all round, and when he comes to the seat, he's got various things that he must do. First of all, he's got to be aware of the fact that the seat might have been tampered with, or the rope that secures it to the tree might have become slack. He's also got to ensure his own personal safety and the safety of others whilst he climbs the tree. So I think what we will see him do, as he just has, is that he's completely unloaded the rifle before he does anything else. He's putting the round back in the magazine and putting that securely in his pocket. So we now know that the rifle is unloaded, the bolt is closed so that no muck or rubbish can get into it. He's now going to check the seat, and he's going to look around. He looked up as he came to it. Everything appears to be in good order, so now he's going to carefully climb the seat. He's going to take care to keep 2 contact points at once while still holding the rifle. So having climbed into the seat and assumed a nice comfortable position where he can see all round and checked around him, he will then consider reloading the rifle. He'll take the magazine from his pocket, check that the rounds are properly seated in the magazine, and fit the magazine to the rifle. And then, making sure that the muzzle of the rifle is pointed at the ground, not into the air, he will carefully close the bolt and apply the safety catch. He can then sit in the high seat for however long he wants to, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it might be, and he's ready to take a shot if a suitable deer that's within his cull plan should present itself. Having spent some time in the high seat, whether the stalk was successful or unsuccessful, our stalker needs to get down. And of course he's got a fully loaded rifle. So the first thing he must do is carefully unload that rifle. And he does it with the rifle pointing at the ground, so that if the rifle goes off, the round goes into the ground. He then shoulders the rifle and very carefully makes his way down the high seat. It's perhaps one of those things that in the excitement of the shot and the excitement of actually taking a deer, which is your target, you might forget to unload as you come down the seat. It is one of the most important safety practices you can undertake. So we're in a situation here where a stalker has arrived at his stalking ground. He gets out of the vehicle quietly, closing the doors quietly. He's got a friend with him who perhaps has not been stalking before and has come with him to see what he does and what happens. He's taken his bag off the back seat, which contains his bolt, moderator, ammunition and magazine. He takes the rifle from its safe in the back of the vehicle, or if he's simply using a security cord, he undoes it and he retrieves the rifle. Having retrieved the rifle, it might be that his friend wants to actually look at the rifle. So he takes the rifle out of the safe, he checks that it's clear, and he hands it to his friend, who then also checks that it's clear. Okay, he can turn it over, he can see that the bolt isn't in it, he can look at the rifle can be pointed in any direction, it's perfectly safe because there's no bolt and no ammunition. It's completely inert. At this stage then, he will insert the bolt, attach the moderator, load the magazine or charge the magazine, and then load the rifle. Perhaps whilst doing this he might brief his friend on what they're going to do for the day. So we see him here check the breech of the rifle to make sure it's clear. He checks the rifle, he checks the sling swivels on the sling because he's going to carry the rifle by means of the sling. He fits the moderator, and having fitted the moderator, satisfied himself that it's screwed on firmly but not over tight, he can now charge the magazine and carry the rifle to a point where he can safely load it before commencing the stalk. So here we're in a situation where we've got two people stalking together. The stalker carrying the rifle and his friend who is walking behind him in a safe position but able to observe and to assist. They come to a fence that they need to cross. There's a benefit here in that there are two of them, so there's no need to lie the rifle down in the dirt. The stalker unloads the rifle, takes the magazine out, draws the bolt back, retrieves the round from the chamber, and as you saw, checked the chamber to make sure it was clear. His friend has checked the chamber as well, and his friend now climbs the fence, and then whilst checking that the rifle is still clear, he takes the rifle off the stalker. The stalker is now able to negotiate the obstacle, retrieve his equipment and the rifle from his friend. Having retrieved the rifle, he chooses a safe spot, makes sure that the muzzle is pointing towards the ground, and refits the magazine, reloads a round into the chamber, applies the safety in order to continue the stalk. So here our stalker has come across a fence which he must cross, and there isn't a gate or any other means of easily doing it, so he's got to actually climb the fence or find some way of safely climbing the fence. He's got a loaded rifle, so the first thing he does is to completely unload the rifle. And since he's going to have to put the rifle down on the ground and doesn't want any bits of leaf or grit or anything else getting into the action or the barrel, on this occasion, with a completely unloaded rifle and having checked the chamber, he's going to close the bolt and put the rifle in some safe position on the ground where he can easily reach it when he's crossed the fence. He now crosses the fence, ensuring his own safety. He then picks up the rifle and he checks it, he collects his other equipment, and having done so, he's going to continue his stalk. So in order to continue the stalk in a woodland situation, he needs to reload the rifle. So here we'll see him again select the magazine from his pocket and check it. He'll load the magazine into the rifle, having checked the chamber of the rifle. He's watched around chamber, he's put the safety catch on, and he's put the rifle back on his shoulder in his normal stalking position. So here we have a stalker stalking on his own, and perhaps you can tell me what is wrong with what he's doing on this occasion. Right, so now the stalker has returned from his stalk. It might have been successful or it might have been unsuccessful. On this occasion, it was unsuccessful, and the stalker is returning with a loaded rifle. And he now has to think about safety in terms of his journey home and storing the rifle when he actually gets there. So he's going to return to the piece of ground, probably where he first loaded the rifle, and he's then going to unload the rifle, taking the magazine out, removing the round from the chamber, checking the rifle to make sure that it has been removed, and he'll then come back to his vehicle where he will take the bolt out, take the moderator off, possibly wipe the rifle down before putting it back in the case. The ammunition, the magazine and the bolt together with the moderator will go in his backpack, and that'll go on probably the back seat of the vehicle, so that again, if on the way home he needs to stop anywhere to get petrol or to answer a call of nature, for instance, he can pick the backpack up and take it with him. There's no suspicion from anyone, no suspicion of what he's got, but he's got the essential operating parts for the rifle, and should anybody steal the vehicle or the rifle from the vehicle, he's denied them access to an operating rifle.